So welcome to sunny Southern Ontario. My name is Chris Gillard. I'm a dry bean researcher right here at the University of Guelph Ridgetown campus, standing in the middle of one of my bean trials. Today I'm going to talk to you about root rot, anthracnose, white mold, some nitrogen research that we're doing and some variety research that we're doing, and try to relate it to you, the Manitoba pulse grower. So the first series of studies I want to talk about is our root rot seed treatment studies. We're actually standing in the middle of one right now at the Ridgetown campus. This is a plant I've pulled from the study. You can see a little bit of root rot here on the main part of the root, and a little bit of root rot down on the main root, the radicle, moving down through in the soil profile. So we are testing new seed treatments and comparing them to what I consider to be the industry standards, or what the industry is using currently on the marketplace. Our current industry standard for most dry bean seed in Canada is from Syngenta. It's Cruiser Max Bean with Dynasty added. Those products are relatively effective on Rhizoctonia and Fusarium root rots. And then we're comparing new products to them, products that are coming down the pipe that will be commercial shortly. A good example would be Rancona Summit from Chemtura. That product is already on seed in the US. ADM uses it on most of their seed across the US. So we're comparing that product to our current standard so that we can have an idea how its performance is, so you as a grower can make the right decisions when you're given that choice at some point in the future. Okay, so now we're standing in front of one of my variety trials here at the Ridgetown campus. We're looking at variety production and variety performance in both narrow rows and wide rows, all kinds of different varieties, blacks and navies and crans and kidneys and pintos, how they perform across Southern Ontario. We have two separate sets of experiments that we do across the province every year. One is the official registration performance trials. Manitoba has their own set out there as well. We compare results with them every year so that you and I can compare and see how they perform in both locations. We also run another set of studies where we're looking at variety performance, and we actually go out and solicit varieties from all the public and private breeding programs across North America, from probably 14 different breeding institutions across North America. And we're looking at the performance of very near to commercial varieties and how they perform to our current check varieties. Now, how's that impact Manitoba pulse growers? Well, we're trying to develop good data for Ontario, but that data is applicable to you because you're growing those same check varieties out there. So if we find a variety that really performs well against a navy bean variety like T9905, you should have some confidence that it'll also perform well in Manitoba. We share that information with the Manitoba pulse growers, and then they will select those same varieties and test them in Manitoba and see how they perform there as well. So I want to talk to you about nitrogen now. There's been a lot of research done in both Ontario and Manitoba on nitrogen use in dry beans. Of course, we're putting nitrogen on a crop, even though it's a legume crop, and it has its own nodules, fixes its own nitrogen. We're putting nitrogen on to help combat things like root rot. And why do we have root rot in these fields? Usually it's because we have a fairly tight crop rotation, and it's impacting that next crop in the rotation, dry beans, and we're getting root rot in the crop. So we put nitrogen on to combat that. So previous research from Ontario and Manitoba put that range of nitrogen needs somewhere between 0 and 100. And my research shows it's somewhere between 40 and 60 for most growers. Manitoba's found about the same thing, 40 to 60 range. But of course, are you 40 or are you 60? Are you one of the odd guys that you need 80? Or are you one of the odd guys that only need 20? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at the interaction of nitrogen use in dry beans and the health of the soil. So we're doing some fairly simple tests from Cornell University on soil health. We're measuring that in the fields. We're looking at different fields, wide range of fields, ones that have long crop rotations with legumes in it, ones that have a short crop rotation with just cash crops, ones that have manure use because they're on a dairy farm, to ones that are cash crop farm with no manure use, and looking at how does that impact nitrogen use in the crop. Can you use these tools to pinpoint your nitrogen needs a little more accurately and therefore save you some money and protect the environment at the same time? So I want to talk about plant diseases, aerial diseases in the plants right now. We're going to talk about white mold and anthracnose, two of the big diseases in dry beans. We do foliar fungicide work every year at the Huron Research Station, just 2 hours north of Ridgetown here. We have phenomenal facilities set up there for doing disease work, overhead irrigation to guarantee that we get disease every year. So we're looking at different fungicides. We're comparing them to an industry standard. So a great example is Allegro for white mold and dry beans. That would be the standard in Ontario to control white mold in dry beans. We're comparing new products to it. A good example would be ProPulse from Bayer Crop Science. We've been testing that product for years. We have a pretty good idea what that product can do. It's pretty effective against white mold, similar to Allegro. But what's really neat about ProPulse, it also has activity on the other big disease that we have, which is anthracnose. Now that's a disease that can impact, it can come in on your seed, and we have genetic controls and rotational controls and seed treatments that we can use, but because it's such a devastating disease, we quite often have to come in with foliar controls as well. So we're testing new foliar products on that as well to see how it works. And sometimes we get lucky and we find a product that works on both diseases. And that's a really great thing for growers because the timing of application for those products for the two diseases is about the same time, right around first flower. So if we can use one product to control two diseases, it's a great deal for you. So thanks for joining us today on a whirlwind tour of my research program here at the University of Guelph Ridgetown campus. I'd like to thank the Manitoba Pulse growers for providing this opportunity for me to speak to you. They fund my research program every year to a fairly significant level. And we've taken that funding, we've matched it with the federal government. We get $3 for every $1 you as a Manitoba Pulse grower give us. We can use that funding to do a lot more work that's important to the whole dry bean industry across Canada, including you on your own farm. And if you ever want more information, I encourage you to go to the Ridgetown campus website. I put a research report together every year, a nice simple report, one-page summaries on each study. And if you ever have any more questions other than that, you're welcome to email me at any time or give me a call on the phone and we'll chat and I'll try to save you some money on your farm.